Welcome to episode 98 of The Worst People We Know. I'm Jeff Baldwin.
I'm Sean Delahunt.
And I'm Mike Flynn.
Today we're talking about the Apple release day, sports gambling, and TikTok partnering with the most obvious choice for TikTok, the outdated and mostly hated enterprise software company, Oracle.
The millennials love Oracle.
They do. They really do. Before we get into that, I wanted to brag about my second negative COVID test of the year, COVID-free.
Wow.
I did have a head cold and it
is
scared
negative.
me, but didn't have COVID, so that's good.
So you've had two tests, both negative.
Yeah.
I've had 0 tests, and
so
don't
you
think
might
I've
be
had
positive.
it other than I thought I had it like back when that was the fashionable thing to say in like March. I was like, I was sick in
Right.
December. I probably had COVID.
Everybody did say
now
that.
I'm less certain. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't have it. I didn't ever feel like I had it, honestly. I got tested for 2 group trips. And so because we're friends with a neurosurgeon, he made us all get tested, him and or his wife, depending on how you want to look at it. And it was probably the more responsible thing to do. And so it's good that we all got tested. The first test was up both nostrils with swab. It was somewhat uncomfortable. Second test was only one, but she kept it up there for a while. I mean, it was it's touching your brain and it is uncomfortable. But you know, what are you gonna do?
Were either of them the rapid test or were they traditional style?
The second one, I believe, I went to NYU, like Langone Medical Center, and they did a 24-hour turnaround. So I think that's the rapid test. I don't really know.
I don't know what the turnaround and reporting was. There was a place in San Francisco that it was 2 day. You had to wait a couple days to be able to get in, but it was 15-minute results. They said.
Oh yeah. So my my nephew went and got a test and knew before he even left the doctor's office. So we talked about this in the past.
He's pretty small though, so it doesn't take as long.
That's true. There's less
Good
COVID
point.
in there.
That nostril
You're a full-size person.
is really short.
It takes a lot more to render all that.
It's a smaller Q-tip. Obviously, takes less time. But why is there not just the things everywhere that are 15-minute COVID testing centers? Like, I mean, obviously we don't have the tests, but like 6 months in for something that we know we have that works.
I feel like there's been a
more.
collapse of leadership at the highest levels of government.
That is true.
Yeah, for sure.
But even,
for sure.
I don't know, would you pay $50, $20? I mean, how much could it, I have no idea what it costs. So
I'd pay 5 bananas. Yeah,
Five bananas.
5 bananas
About
for a COVID
5
test.
bananas.
I told you
like
guys,
that.
when I was looking at going to the WBMI, and I went like months ago when we were talking about doing it in Missouri, even. I went to the website, LA County, like tried to register just to figure out what the process was, tried to make an appointment, and it was like the quickest appointment I could book. I'd either have to drive like 50 miles from where I live, which I was like, I'm not going to do that. There's test centers all around me, but they were booked for booked out a month. And then sometime between like July and September, I saw that LA County was like, well, we're abandoning our current COVID test providers and looking for somebody new because it takes too long to get an appointment. It takes too long to process a test. So it's...
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's not that important. It's only a global pandemic. It's killed a couple 100,000 people in this country. But so I was looking at these tests because I was also considering going on the trip that Jeff was going on, but decided that the cross-country flight was maybe not worth the risk to some people in my household. And so I was looking at testing in San Francisco, and then I called the doctor because there were various hoops that I had to jump through. So one, when I was searching for it in San Francisco, there's like 10, 15 sites in San Francisco. Some of them you just drive up, but that was a 2-week wait to get it, which was like, well, that's useless.
Yeah.
And then other ones, it was like you have to be a member of a hospital, you have to get a pre-screening, you have to do all of these hoops to jump through. I was like, I thought this was important.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this be easy?
Well,
and then so I told the doctor about it, doctor who was going on the trip. And the doctor was like, all right, I can get you one that's a rapid test in New Jersey, like guaranteed on your route from the airport to the house. And he told me that. I got off the phone. 4 minutes later, he texted me a link and was like, just go to this and you'll be able to set up. I had to like fill out like a 4-minute questionnaire. And it was like, fine, here's your appointment. It's like you have 20 times you can pick from in 15-minute increments.
I wish I had that one because I had to do a pre-screening and pay $120 for a 3-minute phone call that said, "Hey, I want to get a test." Okay, I signed you up for a test. That'll be $125, please.
Did you get both of them? That guy's making a good rate. Maybe I should be a COVID guy. Who does that?
This is the one I got in New York. The last one I got out in the burbs in Jersey, in that Chester immediate care facility.
The Chester Meat Market.
The Chester.
I wasn't sure if New Jersey
Pets, Hobby and Game
was better. Because it does seem like they've got a pretty good. I was reading some article and it's like they seem to have the most coherent, and maybe because it's a small state, like kind of statewide
New
process
Jersey
of
does?
like opening and closings. Yeah, they seem to have all their shit together in terms of like what's open, what's closed, everything else. I mean, I'm comparing it to California maybe, and that's everything's going to be different because it's the size of like 10 states.
Right.
But even like New York, I was surprised, like contrasting with that, but maybe it's a small enough size. And I don't know if what Flynn was talking about was just because a doctor was setting them up or because New Jersey actually has a better testing
it was
system
he just Googled it and said, "This is on your route. Go to this." I called them beforehand and they said, "Yeah, you just like you can't make an appointment on the phone. Do it by internet and it'll be fine."
That's how they showed like the LA test centers when they first opened, but they were telling only the people to go if you like thought you were infected, but you could just drive up and you waited, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And then like a week later, they're like, "Yeah, anybody can go." And then the whole thing just fell apart because everybody was going, or like your hypochondriacs were like, "Yep, I definitely got it. I got to get tested every." Like I heard stories where somebody's like, "I have a friend that's getting tested every 2 days or every 3 days."
Jesus
it's like,
Christ.
Why?
Yeah, why? It doesn't help you if you know you have it or don't have it at that point. You feel the same.
It helps you more if you let people who think they might have it get tested so they can have access to that. But.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about is the wildfires. Saw some crazy pictures this last week, and it seems like it's not getting better.
I had not seen the sky since like, I think today's a Tuesday. I hadn't seen it since like last Wednesday. So that was like 6 days of, I think I sent you guys a picture one day where the sun, the way it was getting filtered through whatever was going on, the wildfires. We also have really bad smog going on in LA because of the heat makes it better smog baking conditions. The sun was pink. Like when you looked up in the sky, you could stare at the sun, which was nice. Like Trump looking at the solar eclipse because it was so filtered out.
Yeah.
But it was pink. The light you saw coming through was pink. And I'm like, this is not good. The day before that, the sky was just like a brown yellow. Like, air quality is still in like the 150s here, which is very bad.
Yeah.
As of this recording, yesterday marked the 28th consecutive bad air day in the Bay Area, where unhealthy levels of breathing. But today was the first good day in that, and day 29, we broke. So earlier this week, like unhealthy air, I think starts at like 70 or something in terms of like parts per million, and 70 or 80. So in a typical place, you might get a range of like 6 to 30 or 6 to 50 in any given day, depending on the wind.
Yeah.
We had 220 for a couple of days last week. My my wife's uncle lives in Oregon in Corvallis. They were in the 400s, which I cannot imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
Because you can feel. I mean, when it gets to 100, you can taste that stuff. It's gross.
Yeah.
And today was at 30. I went for a run.
Ooh,
I was like,
30.
I remember like being able to breathe outside. That's nice. That's an interesting little change.
Jeez.
So hopefully that sticks around for a couple days. We'll see.
I would encourage, I don't know what it'll look like when this episode airs, but if the listeners just go, I've been using the EPA website, is Air Now. You guys could check it out too. It shows like a whole like Google map of an area, but you can zoom out. And when you look at the western half of the country, like LA, I shouldn't complain. We've got red where I am, but there's a lot of orange and yellow around it. You look up like in Oregon and Washington State, it's like it's purple and blue and like it's like the worst of possible colors. But the entire West Coast is just like
bad.
This big air quality warning. Like it looks
our friend
looks bad. I don't know when it's going to get better.
Our Michigan friend that joined us on this trip, he drove out from Michigan, but before that, he had bought a camper and a pickup truck, and he was on a trip with his girlfriend to some of the national parks: Yellowstone, Grand Teton, and what was the third one? Glacier. And he said, Yellowstone, you really couldn't see anything. Grand Teton, this is in Wyoming. So it's like pretty, I mean, I guess it's still the west, but it's pretty far. It's closer to the middle. They were standing in front of the Grand Tetons, like in that picturesque like view that you see on postcards and stuff. He's like, we couldn't see the mountains. Like we couldn't see them at all. It was like 2 weeks of just not being able to see anything, which is
I was amazed
sad.
to hear like Las Vegas has bad air quality from what's going on in California, and it's not far, but it just seems so far away from here. Like you could drive, and it's not a short drive, but it's not forever to get to Vegas from LA. But there, like it's I don't know. But I like
it's crazy.
We just need better forest management, I think, and keep. Otherwise,
just rake your forests. Just rake them up.
Otherwise, no other changes needed by humans. We're doing a great job, guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a
keep
good
on
point.
doing what we're doing.
Just keep
you know who else who does
fuel.
a great job with
Who's
everything
that?
they focus on? The Oracle Company.
Oracle, yeah, they sure do.
There's one guy who has intimately had to use their software more recently than us on this podcast. That guy effing loves Oracle, Sean Delahunt. Do you also love TikTok, Sean?
You know, I'm not a TikTok user. I don't have an account. I've seen some TikTok videos. I think it's cool. I would like to be able to do TikTok dancing one day, maybe. I think I missed the young age of it, but like maybe in my 80s, if TikTok's still around, I could be the cool old guy that dances on TikTok. Mm-hmm. But I can practice leading up to that. But yeah, I think I don't understand why TikTok had to sell. I think it's just like Trump was angry at them. It didn't quite make sense to me that was like number one security priority. But then it seemed like Microsoft was going to buy them. And I was like, oh, okay. And then you hear the news where it's like, oh, Oracle. Yeah, Oracle's going to buy it. And the only thing I could think of, I've sent you guys screenshots of like Oracle products. I think they're bad for two reasons. One is their CEO only cares about sailboats. And he'll do anything to make money to finance a sailing fund. And two, they acquire a lot of like legacy software and they just maintain it and they add layer and layer. I sent you guys like one menu of something where it was just like, there was a menu and then it was repeated below it. And then there was something else. And it's like the names, nothing was intuitive. Nothing made sense. So I'm picturing like what's going on with like TikTok is designed for the opposite end of that spectrum where it's like millennials or even like whatever the new version of that is like, designed for them, they just want to pick up something and it works. Like it should be intuitive and work. And Oracle is the complete opposite of it. I love whoever wrote into the outline here. Just log in with your PeopleSoft credentials because like, that's Oracle for you.
I was trying to think of like what is Oracle even known for, and most of it is just like bullshit, like just database, like the boringest of the boring tech stack.
If you were a businessman in the 1990s,
yes, like
that's. It's designed. It's not the software you want. It's the software you're willing to accept to like get on the plane to get back home and just finish. You're tasked with like buying like a enterprise management software for your company to deal with accounting and payroll. You're like, yep, this will do. I need to get home. I've been on the road for 250 days this year.
They really are the worst.
So I will say it again for our new listeners because we have quite a few new listeners. I feel like in the last couple of weeks. When I was at Heinz, I was spending a few $100,000 on YouTube advertising, and I went to go check it and do some things. And they said, "Hey, your browser's not supported by us anymore. Do you realize that you're using Internet Explorer 2?" Well, this is what Heinz allows me to do. They have it locked down. I can't download a new browser, and so I had to call IT. And be like, hey, you can't have this. Or I need, can you get me a new browser? And nope, we use Internet Explorer. I was like, I know you use Internet Explorer too. I would like to use one that's been put out in the last 5 years because I'd like to see something related to the $500,000 that I just spent on advertising.
They didn't teach Internet Explorer 2 in college, so I need an update. Guy.
But the reason that we had to use Internet Explorer 2 was because of Oracle, because we had some crappy sales software that only ran in Internet Explorer 2 because they can't possibly rev their software to stay up with a new browser.
They're terrible.
I don't really know how much overlaps between, say, Salesforce and Oracle, but it makes sense to me that Salesforce could kind of come out of nothing and become a huge I think they do a lot of similar things, but I imagine like Salesforce is like, we're just going to make software. I've never used their products. I've only been fortunate enough to only have to use Oracle products. But I would imagine there's a lot of overlap, and it's like they've probably got a single sign-on, and if they push out a new package, like everybody gets it. Oracle, it's like if they sold, it was like selling software, and you got the version. If you didn't pay for the upgrade, you never got it again. But they charge you $250,000 to whatever your scale. Maybe you paid $10 million for the software the first time, and then it's just built. And I remember I would log in when I had to do timesheets at my old job. It was like copyright 1992 to like 2008. I'm like, why is it 1992? Like, what is so precious from back here that we're holding on to? And you'd go to these different systems, and one big rollout they had eventually was a single sign-on, but it took them forever to do that. It used to be like, oh, you want to sign into our CRM software to see the different agencies we're working with, track your marketing work. This is one sign in. You want to go do your timesheet. It was the same like login and all that. You just had to sign in every single time you click on something else on a menu. It's like, oh, would you please sign in and show your credentials?
And all you need to know is the 12-digit number that they assigned you as your password that they don't allow you to change. I mean, it's super secure and safe. It's terrible.
If you are using a copyright 1992, it means that software was written before Windows 95.
Wow.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It's just ones and zeros. I guess they can't
that's
change
probably
that
the problem. They probably coded it literally somebody typing ones and zeros, probably before a compiler.
You think they used, I was thinking it was a punch card.
Oh, that's possible.
Could have been.
Too. That's good.
So they are not buying TikTok. So Trump is forcing TikTok to sell its U.S. operations because they're worried about Chinese governmental interference. I don't really disagree with him. I mean, I don't know if it's that big of a deal if the Chinese know what our teenage kids are dancing to these days, but
I don't think it's the biggest security threat that we're facing or like the top 10 presidential radar. But I do know they do a lot of work. The Trump campaign has this sneaky app, right, that tracks everybody. So they're like well tuned into to that. And there's something going on with him where he wants to get all the census results before he leaves office. So I don't know what his diabolical scheme is, but there's something that they're looking for with all this data on people.
I think what I don't have a problem with, honestly, is we've talked about this in the past, kind of more on the China side, but it's like, look, we're China. We've got 3 billion people. If you want to play in this marketplace, like you just have to deal with our ridiculously oppressive and corrupt government.
Right.
Tough shit. And so,
now China, you have to play with our ridiculously oppressive and corrupt government.
Well, to a point though, it's like, okay, China, like that's fine, but like if you want your apps to work with everyone else's in the world, guess what? Like you have to stop being so fucking sketchy. Like we have to trust the government that like you're not like very proactively doing bad things, and whether or not this is just a big version of that, right? And it's an easy place to take a stand. I don't really have a problem with it. They apparently were already headquartered in California anyway, and so really they're just rolling out their U.S. operations into a separate company.
Right. Well, that's what it used to. The parent company is called ByteDance. Is that right?
Yeah, ByteDance.
Yes.
Which I think is a great name for a company like that. Like much better than Oracle. Like ByteDance is never going to buy any of Oracle's products. They sound so hip and cool. But I guess they're selling off the U.S. spinning it off. And they said TikTok was headquartered in California already, and now Oracle will be like their partner and has like some
like tech
minority
partner.
ownership stake.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me, like I know when at my old job, I would do work in various countries, a couple in the Middle East. And anytime you did work as a foreign company, you had to like get what they called like a local sponsor. And it was a way to like get, probably partially for cultural security reasons, anything like that, but just to get local involvement. So they weren't just having companies come in and make money and not leave anything behind, kind of like win big contracts. So It kind of reminded me of that, though I don't think the U.S. has anything, a standard policy like that, where it seemed like that was pretty common there. But these guys like Oracle was like the least threatening to that's ByteDance in terms of like Microsoft was talking about how they wanted access to this data. They were going to use it. Like Oracle has I don't think they care.
They wouldn't even be able to use it if they wanted to. Like, they just want to.
I think they're running Internet Explorer 2 over at
they're
TikTok.
Like, oh, we're
get that stuff in there.
we're going to own whatever, 20% of TikTok. We're going to sell so many licenses of PeopleSoft to them. This is going to be great. Yeah.
I did not like so they do say that they can sell cloud computing to TikTok. That was one of the things they mentioned, but like the language in the CNBC press release was a little bit too Chinese government for me, which is a little concerning. Like the line that I was particularly concerned by was a person familiar with the discussions told CNBC on Sunday that ByteDance picked Oracle to be the U.S. partner of the popular. Oh, that wasn't the one that it was. It's ByteDance. TikTok owner ByteDance will become its trusted technology provider. Like, right. Oh yes, you're our trusted technology provider in the U.S. Like, this is a forced marriage. It's just gross.
Well, and that's kind of. I'm not really sure this accomplishes anything other than kind of a slap on the wrist to the Chinese government, which I'm personally okay with. But it's like, okay, so now you have all of your data on Oracle servers or whatever in their cloud. So they're monitoring it, quote unquote, for like backdoor access or whatever else. Okay, like that's fine. So now nobody can like hack into Oracle. You know, the Chinese government doesn't have like just an open door.
That makes sense. They don't have their 12-digit
Who could possibly hack into Oracle?
Exactly.
Log in so many times.
Right.
It takes forever. They'll get frustrated.
But obviously, the data is going to be coming in and out from Oracle to TikTok's like servers, you know, to get to the app. So really, TikTok themselves can then just give all that data away to whoever they want. I'm not really sure this accomplishes really anything technology-wise.
I don't understand what it solved.
Yeah.
Even if, say, I guess if they fully spun it off and like sold it, say, Microsoft or who it was, Walmart and somebody else was
Walmart,
bidding
Microsoft,
to. But if they really handed over ownership to it and it was a typical acquisition where it's like they've lost control, that would make sense. But yeah, the way this is set up, it's just like it does seem like they found somebody that was easy enough to work with or wasn't that hard of a pill to swallow for them.
Right.
Yeah. I'm really concerned about the security of our newest dance craze. Like, if we start seeing like knockoff imitation Chinese American dance crazes.
What were those dance, weren't there like dance movies 1 or 2 decades ago that were
Step
popular?
Up and Dance or something like that.
Yeah. Like something like that would be like it could be like an international like movie about like a Chinese dance team stealing American dance teams, and there was a competition.
I like this idea.
World domination. Yeah.
That sounds like a remake of the plot of the cheerleading movie, which I don't remember what that one was.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Step. What is that? Step dance movies. I don't. As if I don't know.
Yeah, and I might be. I just feel like that was a big like sort of contest, like if it's a dance contest or a cheer contest movie, like that was like a big genre.
Step
for a while.
Up.
Step Up.
There's Step Up All In, Step Up Revolution, Step Up 3, Step Up to the Streets, just straight up Step Up.
Yeah.
2006. Step Up. This is the Chinese version. Step Up China.
See, this is where it all
started.
started.
Of the Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's Step Sisters, which is a different theme. And then there's Happy Feet, which is another movie that involves dancing, but it's penguins primarily.
You know, the penguins and Happy Feet could have been a good cloud infrastructure partner because they would have they wouldn't have to pay for cooling costs. I think like all their
They would probably run Linux too, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
I mean, they'd be great.
One of them, you know. I saw not completely unrelated, but you mentioned cooling costs. I just saw this week, I guess Microsoft sunk a data center.
Underwater data center.
Yeah, underwater data center. They did it for 2 years, and they said they pulled it up like this week and cleaned it off. It was basically a big like tube that they sealed up and put a bunch of servers in. Basically said, obviously no people were in there. And they're like, oh, by the way, it worked. Like, I think comparatively it worked a lot better than data centers on land. So for every 8 errors or broken servers or whatever you want to call it, on a regular like land-based data center, there was 1 in this sunken data center. So
that could be a great use for Tahoe. It's really deep and it's just kind of wasted space. It's near Silicon Valley. Like,
yep. Yeah,
we can finally get some use.
Yeah,
out
plus
of it.
that water's pretty cold all year round.
Yeah.
So you get some of those data centers, you get a nice 70 degrees year round.
guys,
That's pretty nice.
this is our new business idea. We're gonna move to Tahoe. We're gonna bury a bunch of computers in the lake or sink them in the lake. And then we're going to live off this beautiful internet thing that we have going.
Live off the fat of the land.
Exactly. I love this idea.
Well, you know what else? There's another company that is got a billionaire founder who, most people also think is a bit of an asshole, much like the founder of Oracle. They had a release today. And that's the Apple Corporation.
They did.
Or as I like to call it, how my kids are going to go to college. So there were a few different things that they announced.
You mean via their iPads, because this pandemic will still be going on in 15 years when your son's in college.
Oh, yeah, definitely. My kid is using an iPad for school right now.
That's how he's going to go to college, on an Apple iPad.
Right.
Well, you know what's interesting is I think he might be getting a better education than if he was in the school. Like the kids, he's paying attention to stuff, and then he's getting introduced faster to things like Scratch. Scratch is like a kid's programming kind of language thing. And they have some online math stuff that the teacher is able to see directly how much he's completed and what he's done.
Do you think that'll be the new thing? Because they said with COVID, people can't say now you got to come into work anymore to be remote. The students will also have an uprising, like the workers, where they're we're not going in anymore. We can learn from home.
I'm pretty confident if my kid could get away from us and go play with his little friends, he would be happy to do that. And I would be happy for him to do that. Because
is your kid? Are they full-time remote right now? I guess he's not. Is he in school yet? Is he in actual school, or is it
he's
pre-K?
5.5, so he would be in kindergarten. Technically, he is in kindergarten. He's just in kindergarten from home.
Right. Okay, but it is full
the way
time.
The school
from home.
It is full. Yeah, I mean, full. I mean, whatever school is.
So
if he was in school, he would be in school from 8 or 8:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. and then you can pay for extended day to go through 6 p.m. Right? So from a childcare perspective,
I was asking because New Jersey schools are doing this weird thing where they're going every other day to school, and then he
doesn't have that.
Okay,
and I think that every school, so public schools have their own thing, private schools have their own thing. Private schools in California can apply for a waiver, but the state hasn't really figured out the process of what those waivers mean yet.
Don't worry, Newsom's working on a brand new tier system. It'll be working.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a purple elephant, but if you're a gray dinosaur, then you're in big trouble. So they have the kids who are in preschool or on campus, and they're in their own learning pods and whatever, and they show up with masks. I don't know if they wear masks while they're learning, or because it's hard, how you going to have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old wear a mask. The kindergartners through 3rd grade, I think, would be the next wave of kids that are on, and the middle schoolers would do distance learning further. But they're going to bring them on campus in waves, and they would be on campus every day. It wouldn't be trading day on, day off.
That makes no sense to me.
That's because we have a small school, and they're able to distance them and pod them differently than if you had 1,200 people at a public school. That's kind of why they're doing the day on, day off thing.
Gotcha. The day on day off thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I guess you got to demonstrate you're trying. But anyway,
physical distance. Yeah, I guess
So Apple had their release day today. They announced some stuff.
Yep. They announced some stuff. There were a lot of stuff around what you can do with some of the new OSs. A lot of stuff that some new hardware, mostly around watches and iPads. The thing that kind of stood out to me was the bundled content, because we've talked about content quite a bit on this podcast. And with the Apple bundle content, they now have this thing called Apple One subscription bundle. And you can pay for a subscription bundle as an individual, a family, or Premier, which I guess involves some other things. But basically, there's a bunch of stuff that you can subscribe to as an Apple from Apple, right? You can subscribe to Apple TV Plus. You can subscribe to Apple Music Unlimited. You can subscribe to Apple Arcade. You can get additional storage on iCloud. You can subscribe to their news service. And apparently there's something that you can subscribe to from their health app, although I never knew that.
It's new.
And so now they have these bundled plans, whereas like individual and family plans, you can bundle cloud storage, Apple TV Plus, Apple Music, and Arcade. And so if you do that as an individual, it's $15. If you do it as a family plan, it's $20. I kind of did the back of the envelope math because I have cloud storage, I have Apple TV Plus, and I have music. And I think that I think multiple people in my family have cloud storage. So we might be saving net $4 a month, something like that, which isn't nothing. $50 a year.
I was looking
like bad.
The individual plan, I feel, is easier to break down with the price because, it's like one, I don't know what the family one goes into, but like I don't know what they cost standalone. I have Apple TV, but it's free, but I thought that was like $10 a month. And then
it's like $5, I think.
I thought it was more. I don't know. Music, I don't know what that is, but I know like Spotify, I think I pay like $6 a month. So it's
I think Apple TV
and Arcade
Plus
was like $5 a month.
Yeah, Apple Music family plan I think is like 10 or 12. We probably should have done it. If we were people who prepared for things, we probably would have put some of these things up.
Well, you keep going back to this. Yeah, but anyway. It seems like it's a nice, like the $15 a month is a reasonable price for like the services you get across that. Cause I think like a Netflix plan, and maybe that's like a 2-person plan or whatever the normal one is like $12 a month now, I think. Granted, Netflix has a lot more content than Apple TV, but there's the bundling seems
What's the
nice.
news
And I think you mentioned
thing? Do you pay for news through Apple News? I thought it was kind of
so
free.
So they
so
have
much
news,
of it is becoming like
News
behind
Plus.
a paywall now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they have, for example, the only thing that we have it because my wife subscribes to everything. We have Apple Plus. There's a ton of like random magazines that you would never ever subscribe to, like American History Magazine, World History Magazine, like weird ones like that. And then there's a bunch of ones where people do like subscribe to, like Hemispheres Magazine,
Yes.
like
Rhapsody.
This Week, Ad Week. If you're kind of an industry person, there's a variety of industry people. The Atlantic, the New Yorker, and the big one is Wall Street Journal's on there. So you can,
So you pay
Wall Street Journal.
So you pay for Apple News and you get all of that stuff. There's no like tiered system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nope. I get
But
all
it's
that
weird.
Dog and Pony Show.
There's stuff that they bundle
A
in
lot
that.
of
Like, I might
local
see-
papers, like San Francisco Chronicle, like LA
Right.
Times, whatever.
Yeah, there's stuff like I would see, like there might be an article by Wired, and it's some of it is just free and some is behind the paywall, but then you could just Google that article
Right.
and find like it's not behind. The way Wired does it, I think, is number of articles read by IP or however they try and track that.
Right.
So there's sometimes I find like I don't pay for Apple News Plus, but I'll see something, and if it's Wall Street Journal, I know it's probably behind a paywall, but other things aren't necessarily behind a paywall. It's just only on the way they bundle it on Apple News, which is kind of is a little bit strange to me, but I think it could be a good deal. Like I was looking, there's a lot of LA Times stuff that's there. And since that's the local paper here, I've been either thought I should subscribe to that or maybe do the Apple News. But that one only comes in at the premier tier.
I do like that idea in general is like, cause that we've talked about this before. It's like, okay, so I'd like to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Wired, Medium. And it's like, and then maybe like my local paper and like, it just gets to be out of hand. Okay. So now I'm talking $50 a month or more, maybe like 80 in magazine and newspaper subscriptions. Like F that. Yeah. So it does make sense.
You don't think that you should spend $1,000 in subscriptions to periodicals that you won't read? That's weird.
That I'll read like half of an article a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. So I did look up Apple TV is $4.99 per month. And Apple Music, it has a $10 plan for an individual and a $15 plan for a family. Yeah. So between those two, I was already
basically
paying
getting free cloud
$20.
Storage is the way their pricing works out. Like they don't.
Yeah. Or free Arcade, which I'll never use, but my kid will probably be super interested in a year.
Arcade, I had that for a while because I got I think I had like a free month or two when I bought my iPad, and then I ended up canceling it because I didn't really use it that much. But I did kind of like that because it's $5 a month. Every single app you go to download is like, if you wanted to play a game, is between like $1 and $5, and it might be a complete dud.
They send you like a full-size arcade of like Pac-Man or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. It takes, I mean, it's only $5. You'd think it would cost more to ship that, but
You would think that.
Hey, they do it through Prime though, so as long as you're Prime,
right.
the post office is just subsidizing it all.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
assholes.
Trump will fix that.
I definitely think the bundle.
Anything
thing,
else you guys thought was interesting?
Well, I was going to say the
Yeah.
bundle thing is the most interesting, but the iPad looked nice to me. So they basically they announced 2 watches and a new version of the watch, some cheap version of the watch, and the new iPad Air. I don't understand their iPad thing anymore. I don't follow it closely enough, but there's the Pro, the Air, the regular one, the Mini that hasn't been updated in 10 years. But the Air looks very nice. I mean, it's not cheap, but if I was going to get an iPad, I think that's what I'd get.
Yeah, I was watching the event on my iPad, which I think is a 6, but it's whatever they call, like the iPad is just iPad, and it's the current one. So I have like the current version of the iPad. But I felt like a complete asshole watching the iPad, the new iPad Air video on this stupid iPad that I have to throw in the garbage.
It should have just like not shown it. It's like, you got some obsolete piece of shit.
Oh, well, that's
It's
actually
still
another
currently
thing
the
that I
newest
thought was
iPad you can
interesting.
buy, but it already feels like
You guys realize this is maybe the first event that I know of that you could have watched through Chrome.
So I did watch it through Chrome, although I was on a Mac. I wasn't really paying attention if that was, I don't know. Yeah. Is that so? That
I just know
thing.
that in the past I've like Googled, like let me find the Apple event.
And it's Safari.
I've tried to open it in Chrome, like, God, they're making me open Safari, those sons of
bitches.
I watched it on YouTube, which kind of surprised me because I feel like
that is surprising.
They've always had like a love-hate with YouTube. Like, it used to be a default iOS app when the phones first launched, and then it went away, and then YouTube came out with their own app.
The other thing I noticed is that they paid for Google search ads for Apple event on the day of this, because I Googled Apple event and there was a paid search ad there. So like, they're accepting the marketing.
I'll say, watching the event. So, firstly, I did like the iPad. I noticed they brought the fingerprint reader back. I'm not sure it ever left or not. I don't know if it's on the Pro.
It was on the home. It was on the button before,
right? But the
like
Pro
the one
doesn't
I have is on this bottom button, and I don't know. Yeah, now the new one's on the top button,
on the button itself. Cool. Yeah, like on the power button. So that was kind of nice. Full screen display, which I think is about time. I mean, they've had the same design for a long time now. Yeah.
So
the colors
I kind of ran over this for a second. So that exercise app, did you realize that was called Fitness Plus, and this is like a new thing that they're launching?
It's brand new. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So that was half of their thing was on this fitness thing, which I think probably got a lot of focus because, like we were talking about before,
Peloton.
We started like Peloton and other things. Obviously, because of COVID, like there are gyms that are out of business or are closed. Like nobody can exercise. It seemed pretty smart. I think, is it $10 a month, Mike?
It is $10 a month or $79 per year if you pay on an annual basis.
I mean, it's a pretty good price. It looks like it doesn't look like it's live classes, but they're all like studio produced, look pretty good. They're designed to be minimal props. Like you might need some hand weights or something, but you don't need much, a lot without props. And really integrated with the Apple Watch experience. I think even the icon for it took me a minute to figure it out. It looks like the target or bullseye, but it's the rings you try and close on your Apple Watch for like your activity for the day.
It includes a yoga class, a cycling class, strength and core workouts.
Yep.
You can follow on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV with your Apple Watch and tracking your progress.
I will also say the Apple Campus, they did. So firstly, Apple's killing these remote video things. Like, since they can't do their live presentations, I feel like the way they've been done the last 2 of their like non-live, videos, it's awesome. They look better in my opinion, and they zoom all around their campus
because it's like
campus is
production.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it's a production. Yeah. But the campus is.
But yeah, they do like a
ridiculous.
flyover on the whole campus and like zoom in. I liked it. I was watching I had the thing open on my iPad. I was doing some work on my computer, watching that a little bit, and then I think it was The Verge had like somebody live blogging the event, and they were making fun of parts of it where like I think the guy that was talking about the processor chips was like, and this is where Apple designs all its all its chips in a secret lab underneath the Steve Jobs Theater because of the way like it tries to show like it's zooming in. It's like, no, that's probably like his point was like, it's probably not like in a secret bunker under that, but the way they show it makes it look like it's like a movie or something, like a spy movie.
I'll tell you what, like there's a lot of stuff around technology that I kind of understand how it happens, but a lot of that stuff with video, like it is just a shade short of magic to me. I just don't understand. Like it's just straight wizardry.
Yeah.
Like how do you do that thing where they're like fake hallways and zooming through and like there's a human there waving at you? I don't get it. God bless them.
They do a good job with it, and I guess that's not that's to be expected. But like I wasn't expected to be like, oh wow, this is much better than live. Like they shouldn't do these live things anymore because this is much more exciting than it's a bunch of dudes on stage. But anyway, it was so. Wait, no iPhone? When's the iPhone coming out?
I think it just got delayed, probably.
So the
like
rumor
October
mill is that there's going to be another something in a month.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Google's announced that they're going to release theirs at the end of this month. So yeah, October, I guess, would make sense. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. That's basically what every article. So I don't want anyone thinking that I have inside information because I assure you that my wife like literally will lock our bedroom door during the day.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Like the degree to which she takes the secrecy seriously is hilarious.
Yeah. There was I'm not even going to say some of the other like security measures that she's taken at the household, but whatever.
Did you guys use a Wi-Fi password?
Oh no! Yeah, it's the same password I keep on my luggage. Is that weird?
1 2 3 4 5.
1 2 1 2 3 4.
Yeah, she's gone from suck to blow.
Yeah, well, that's why I think I texted you guys jokingly when the event started, when it was just like, oh, it's a phone or an iPad and a watch refresh. Like nothing. It's cool. Like the iPad, I thought was cool. Nothing was super exciting. I think the fitness thing could be pretty cool and interesting given the weird environment that we're in right now. The iPad, I like the colors on the new, what do they call it? The Air. Yeah. But they finally got rid of the Air. Used to do or the iPads would have the color on the front as well as the back. I never understood people that bought white iPads because if you're watching like a movie or something, why would you want a white frame around it? So I've always bought like the darker one. And now the new Airs it's a dark, not full they say it's like full frame or something, but there's still a frame or a border around it, but it's all black.
The thing I dislike about an all black phone is that if I like have it on the couch or something, I can't see it. Like, and that goes for the iPad too. If I have it like face up, I mean, maybe I just had a dark couch at the time, but it was like
you got to get a lighter color. So you have a light colored couch, so it works out perfect for me. If I had a light phone,
you're from New Jersey, you don't own a white couch.
It's all black leather in my house, all black leather. So yeah, I don't know. I'll also say the watch. While I don't have one and I don't have an iPhone, so the watch is kind of pointless for me, but it's growing on me. Like I want one. I don't think I would use it that much. Like I don't think I would like it that much once I got it. But I'm the more features they roll out, I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool.
I'm in the same camp.
Yeah.
It's like now it's looking cool, like the blood oxygen level. I don't know why I need that. I think if I had it would always show that I'm somewhere between like 94% and like 100%. Like
it shows 0 and you're like, oh shit.
It is just cool.
Better breathe.
Yeah. I just find that fascinating. Like it's the same thing if you go into the doctor's office, they would put on like it just clamps on your finger.
Right.
They usually put it on when you show up. It measures blood oxygen. I think it takes your pulse, some other stuff. But it's like it just fascinates me that that's something that somebody can do where it's like, oh, we can figure out what's going on in your blood without just taking the blood out of your body, which was like the old fashioned way. I don't think you could even figure out blood oxygen though that way without you'd get all the oxygen in it.
I'm not a doctor. My mom was just at the doctor and she was saying that she asked them to take her blood oxygen for some reason. I think she's anemic or something. So she was like, I just wanted to check it. And I was watching this right after she told me that. And I'm like, oh, I should tell her about this. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. She'll just check it 10 times a day. Like
that's what my friend, my roommate from college, call him MK. His wife is like a little bit of what do they call that? I want to say hemophiliac, but it's not
hypochondriac.
Hypochondriac. Thank you. It's a little bit of a hypochondriac. And when they came out with the EKG measurements, she was like, we were visiting them, and she was like, she wanted one for her birthday, and so we're talking about getting her the discount or whatever, because Bryn's an employee. And she's like, should I get the EKG one? I kind of want the EKG one, but I know I don't want it because I will check it every single minute.
Yeah, sometimes it's not good to have access to that kind of thing.
So
I think I would like it like over time, those things, not to like I find those things interesting. Like I have a smart scale, like I'll put stuff into Apple Health, and it just to track trends over time. But if you get into the point where you're like tracking every day, it probably doesn't mean anything. And it becomes a distraction, so it's not helpful. But it's nice to see.
Who's that guy who measures his life and puts out an annual report on his life every year?
I don't know.
I've always thought about doing that.
Guy annual report. This was like a big thing. Come on, I can't.
It's probably Larry Ellison, and he does that instead of an Oracle annual report.
Right. He's like, how many measuring my life via how many yachts and yacht races I own.
Yeah, it's not that guy. But while I Google that, the one other thing that I was doing in the background was, this fitness app. What percentage of value do you think Peloton's market cap is divided by Apple's market cap?
Oh. Peloton, I don't know what Peloton is, but I feel like it's like, it can't be more than I don't think it's more than $1 billion, is it? So that's
yeah, it is more than $1 billion. I'll tell you that their market cap. Oh, Peloton? More than $1 billion? Yeah. You want to know what their market cap is?
Yeah.
$24 billion.
Really? Oh, I didn't know it was that high. That's high.
Sorry. Oh, Mir was the one that got acquired, right? Lululemon bought Mir. Oh,
yeah, Mir. Yeah.
I'm getting
Peloton's
a little
public.
Bit confused.
Yeah.
So I don't remember when we talked about Peloton, but their first few days of trading, they were in the 20s. They're at 85 now. Yeah.
So that's like
I thought they were like worth $3 to $6 billion when we talked about them, but they're worth $25 billion now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but Apple's still worth what? 80 times that or more.
Yeah, it's a couple trillion. So like Apple is, the number is that Peloton is 1.23% of Apple. So if Apple just like overnight just takes all of Peloton's business, it's like, it's like a mildly up trading day.
Well, this is the thing with Apple, and it's almost, I mean, obviously they've had a pretty good run with stock wise lately, but there's nothing the stock was down today on this news, on the announcements and stuff. And that's, I feel like, the case every year lately, because people are expecting this like amazing, new iPhone situation that no one's ever seen before. It's impossible. Yeah. Like they have, and I think you've mentioned it before, Flynn, like the Apple Watch is like a whole industry in and of itself. And it's like a blip on their radar because they're just doing they're just such a big company. There's nothing they can.
But like, that's like the devious secret of it, right? Because like, at the same time, like we say, oh, well, if they take, the entire, all of Peloton's business, but Peloton has to sell all those bikes. The iPhones and the watches are already out there. The installed base is billions.
Peloton's a commitment. Like this is, it's $80 a year. Like that you don't have to think about that. If you want to get into Peloton, like you're dropping thousands of dollars and maybe you'll hate it. You can jump into Apple Fitness at $10 a month or $80 a year. And if you never use it again,
who cares?
It's $80. Right. It's 8 bananas. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that people really underestimate that as a business, like in general. And so at FBN, that was one of the things that I think was the secret sauce. FBN actually had really big news today. FBN, for people who are new listeners, is the company I used to work for. It's called Farmers Business Network, and it's a membership for independent farmers. But
they use a lot of Pelotons.
Oh, a lot of Pelotons.
Love the stationary bikes.
But like you have all of these guys who are like they're selling technology. Some of it's good technology they're trying to sell to farmers, right? But if they want a new customer, they got to call a guy up. They got to like find who the right person is. They got to get him to pay attention and listen to a sales pitch. There's like, it's a whole fucking thing, right? Like at FBN, they had 6 months ago 12,000 farmers who were members, and a lot of those guys just considered, when FBN calls me, it's my account manager helping me. It's not somebody selling me something, right? And so they pick up the phone, like you call them, they pick up the phone. Hey, we got a new service. We think they can save you money. All right, great. Let's talk about it. And so every new product that we rolled out was like it was just the adoption was so much because you had 12,000 people who were willing to listen to what you had to say, and like versus I got to fucking find a new guy every time I do this, right? And that's really the secret sauce. Also, FBN today announced that they're removing all membership fees, so we'll see what that does.
I might join.
Yeah, maybe I should join
you
too.
Might
for free.
Yeah, become a member. See if you
got like
submit
4
your planting data.
here.
What's your planting data in your?
So, Nikki just grew tomatoes on her balcony, so I think that's going pretty well. I mean, we're gonna have dozens.
Has she done any soil sampling? So maybe she signs up for FBN. She goes on the marketplace. She finds somebody to do some soil sampling, so she knows what her soil types are.
Right,
and then she can get some seed recommendations to increase her yield.
That's a good
idea.
idea.
They do like sun analysis because about half the plants on my balcony have died in the past like 2 weeks because of the heat wave and the direct sunlight, or it's just like
get someone out
there.
So
they do. They have something called the GDUs, I believe, which is something day units or geothermal day units. So yes, they do. They have it's a weather application that measures on each one of the field level GDUs.
Field level, including balcony level.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't know if they do balcony level because how high up are we talking? Field. I mean, that's actually might be better because I think it's done by satellite.
3 floors up, different elevation.
Yeah, you don't want to, but accidentally they might measure the 4th floor's balcony, and that would be a totally different, sample size.
That's a good point. I don't know how they account for, overhangs and things of that nature. Yeah,
urban farms. Anyway, should we move on to our last topic here? Sports gambling.
Seems reasonable.
Gambling.
Yeah.
So I think we've all sort of noticed this. Flynn, this was your idea to bring up. I was just kind of curious. I feel like I've seen gambling all over the place lately, sports gambling in particular. The Barstool Sports is...
I'll bet you $5 you haven't.
Barstool Sports is releasing something in Pennsylvania. I saw that because I follow that jackass on social media. Fox. I was watching some football over the weekend, and it was just like Fox Bets is a thing. I don't know what it is, but it's some sort of sports gambling that they're like talking about all the time on Fox. Like
it's so integrated
sports.
now. Like it used to be taboo.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
So
it was like this huge thing. Like we talked about, like no major sports franchise would allow anything in Las Vegas because they were afraid they would get corrupted by gambling. And now you have the LA Raiders, you have the LA Golden Knights.
LV,
in the NHL.
LV. Yeah.
Las Vegas.
LV, whatever.
LV. Don't you remember LV? I remember on our 8th grade class trip, we were telling people LV and LVMS stood for Las Vegas because that had to be so much cooler than where we came from. I don't think that's the case
People
at all,
definitely fell for it in Philadelphia or Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
We got on our bus.
But yeah, so the Vegas, I was looking because I remember that MGM has like basically they don't call it like a sports book. It's like a betting lounge. I don't know quite what the difference is, but in the stadium and the new stadium, I don't know if humans are allowed to go into it because of COVID.
Oh, MGM in the new football stadium?
And the Raiders football stadium has like they call it the MGM Club at Allegiant Stadium, which is named after what got to be like one of the top 5 worst airlines. So
is that
congrats them for getting the stadium sponsorship. But yeah, it's a betting lounge in the stadium.
That's we should go. We should go to one of those games.
And the reason they said they did that is because they didn't want to lose traffic to the casinos because people are there to gamble. So they're not going to go to the stadium and pay to go into the stadium, pay for all the tickets and the increased prices there. They just go to the casinos and watch in a sports book. So they did this to compete with it. But
that would be kind of fun. Like, I'm not a big sports gambler, and I could give a shit about football, but that would be kind of fun. Yeah.
I used to go to boxing. Like, when we go to Vegas, we go to a boxing match, and I didn't follow boxing. I had really no idea what was going on, but you put some money on it and watch 2 people punch each other in the face. Like, it's a fun
assure you, I don't really care about the NFL. Like, I don't care about any of those things. When you have, like, even, at this point in our lives, $100 is like, not that meaningful amount of money.
10 bananas.
Put $100 in an NFL game. It's rare that I will cheer louder than when somebody breaks a tackle and goes for 20 yards when I got $100 riding.
Yeah, of course.
So that was great.
But I've always felt like sports, they try and act like it's a business, but they do a very good job at hiding that, right? And people get upset like when a team leaves, like when the Browns moved to Baltimore, like there was a whole ESPN 30 for 30 about that. Everyone's heartbroken. These teams leave these towns. People feel like it's like part of their
identity is tied
their
up
identity and their history. It's just a company that stole your town's name,
right?
Put it into their brand and started calling it that, right? Like, and I think it's different. Like the Green Bay Packers, if you like, some franchises are really old. It's like, well, these guys were the meatpacking plant in Green Bay, and it was just the dudes that worked there were playing. It's not that anymore, but it can trace its way back to that. But sports tries to elevate itself as so lofty. Like baseball, we were prepping for this episode. Pete Rose. What is it, like the White Sox hundreds of years ago?
Yeah,
they got in trouble. Like it was like, this is sacred. This is God's game. We can't.
Right.
Nothing can be.
We can't sully this.
No money changing in the temple. Like this is, and now they're just like, they've admitted it's entertainment. And to your point, Mike, it makes it more entertaining. I don't care. I don't care about a football game, but if I got $100 on it and I'm watching it, like.
It's fun.
And I think like some of the globalization of like the fact that the NFL has become much more of a global brand in the last 4 or 5 years, and is certainly trying to be more so. Like they look to England and like this is your classic international business play, right? Is like you're in an English speaking country, you go to the next English speaking country that you think is going to be most similar because it's the easiest to translate over culturally, and you go over to England. Everybody bets on soccer. You can. It's weird to me that like you can bet on soccer because just the aspect of the game is very different. But you can bet on wins, losses, and ties. You can bet on all these prop bets. They've had a number. I mean, every year there's some report of some family member of a player who's getting in trouble for betting, and there's a question of whether he's got inside information about the team and all this other kind of crap. But like. They freaking have betting sponsors on the jerseys of soccer teams. Yeah. So I'm sure when Roger Goodall goes over to London for the 5 games a year and is talking to whoever the owners are there about betting, he's thinking about, hey, this is a very meaningful part of what makes people pay attention to our business.
Yeah. So I looked up where sports betting is legal. It's fully legal in 16 states currently. It's legal pending in total of 20 states, legal and legal pending. And then projected by 2021, it's basically in all states. There's like
by next year.
It's projected this year. There's Ohio.
If I'm stuck inside during the Super Bowl next year, exactly. You're goddamn right. It's going to be legal to bet on it from my house.
It's weird to me the states that it's not legal in. Like some of them make sense. I feel like Utah. Okay, yeah, no shit, that's not legal there.
Yeah.
But like
you can't have 4% beer, so yeah,
right. Oklahoma, Idaho, Wyoming, not legal and not projected. Nebraska, South Carolina. I don't know, but
South Carolina has a little bit of a gambling problem. My cousin lived there, and they had legalized like those video poker machines, and they had to outlaw them because there were lines of people in cars like outside of gas stations. So they're like, let's back this up a little bit, guys.
Probably why it's not legal in Alaska either. I could see that being a very depressing scenario.
Yeah.
They don't get out much. But all but like 8 states are going legal within the next year. Which is kind of crazy. It
also feels like there was probably some federal agreement like that, hey, Las Vegas is going to be able to do this and nobody else for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then I think New Jersey just kind of broke it open and said, screw it, we want the revenue.
New Jersey's such a strange state to have legal gambling. And they always have. Atlantic City is probably the only other big, gambling facility other than Las Vegas.
That probably helps, like once you've got physical gambling there to expand. Like I was surprised. I see like Maryland is shown as projected 2020, but not currently. And that they were opening, like when I was living in the area, they were opening, I forget what it's called now, but just like south of DC, there were these big casinos that were opening there, and then a couple other places. And they've had horse racing forever.
Ohio.
So they've had gambling, but it's strange to see.
Cincinnati, they opened a big casino right in Cincinnati, which I'm still confused about, like what really you're allowed to do there. I thought it was.
But could you bet on sports there?
I don't know.
No, it's still.
Yeah, I guess not.
Still, you can.
So in Pennsylvania passed a law like years ago, 2004, 2005, it was a revenue shortfall thing, and they passed a law. It was actually that if you were a municipality above a certain size, you had to have a casino, or you had to issue a casino license.
Interesting.
And they were going to use the revenue for schools or old people or whatever they traditionally use that money for.
Right.
So it was a big deal when I was in Philadelphia because they wanted to put the casino in Nicetown, which is a neighborhood in Philadelphia, which is the complete opposite of nice.
It's like Greenland.
So, yeah, which is like, you can see the argument for wanting to do it because it's like, all right, we'll put this anchor here. There'll be development around it and it'll make the neighborhood less terrible. But the other argument is the people who have the least amount of money are going to be just going to, slot machines. Yeah, exactly. And that was what it was. It was slot machines. It was no table games. And then they extended into table games. Like by the time I was in Pittsburgh, we had a casino by the football stadiums and they had table games, but no sports gambling.
That's my whole thing. And I do like Las Vegas and I do like gambling, but like going to Las Vegas is fun. It's like this big thing. You're spending money that you wouldn't ordinarily be spending. And it doesn't.
I'm making money I wouldn't ordinarily be making.
Right. Good point.
Spend money to make money.
Yeah. I mean, the beginning. True. And then, of course, you just make money hand over fist like everyone does in Vegas.
Yeah.
So, but the whole thing is like aspirational fun. Whereas you go to some of these other places and it's like, like Atlantic City, there are some, like basically one at this point, nice casino in Atlantic City. But some of the ones like we went to for your bachelor party, we're walking past like the Tropicana in Atlantic City, which is built 15 years ago at that point. And you're like, this is very depressing. Like this is weird.
So I always say, like when I talk about that bachelor party, we were walking down the street and I'm always like, every moment that I was walking down a sidewalk in Atlantic City, I was actively thinking the person coming towards me in the opposite direction could punch me in the face for no reason and I wouldn't be surprised. That's just like, that's how safe I feel right now. That I need to be prepared that any person who walks within the 4-foot sphere of me will attempt to punch me in the face for no reason.
It's weird that like I don't know why Vegas could make it that way. I think it probably helps. Like,
well, there's just so much money.
There was
so much
always entertainment. Right. There was money going in there. There's proximity to Los Angeles. Because I went to I would spend time in Council Bluffs, Iowa for work, and one of the big draws there. It's across the river from Omaha, and that's where the gambling is. So people they love going to Council Bluffs to gamble, and they're mostly full service casinos. But they were depressing. They didn't have Vegas has like an excitement to it, and it's names you recognize. Like Harrah's is there. Like I don't know who all was there, but it's like these names and brands you recognize. The casinos look nice, but it's just not it's mostly.
That's I think the depressing part.
Slot machines pulling the lever.
It's mostly that
you can smoke in there. You can have your big bucket of coins, and you're just sitting there.
Yeah,
on the slot machine.
So the first time I was ever in Vegas was for. You guys know Pizza Expo, obviously. Most people get to Vegas the first time when they're on a tomato business working at Pizza Expo. And we stayed in the Cosmopolitan, which is a relatively new hotel casino. Yeah. It's nice.
It's still pretty nice.
When I was, and this is 2012, 2013, so I'm like 31, and I'm like, this is one of the nicer hotel rooms I've ever been in. And then I've stayed multiple times for other reasons, and I've been at different hotels. I was at MGM several times. MGM, the green one, the one with all the green lights.
Yeah, that's MGM.
Yeah, so I was there a couple of times with Four Moms, and that one's fine. It's nice. It's a lot of stuff that's underground. And then when I was at FBN, we're bringing people in from all over the country, and we decided to go to Vegas because it's easy to get to, and they do have cheap hotels. And so we had some conference where we needed to pull all these guys in from all over the middle of, like these sales guys from all over the middle of the country, and we stayed at Excalibur.
I've stayed there. I've stayed there. I stayed at Circus, which is pretty much the same as Excalibur. Oh, they're the
I think they're
worst.
Connected. It's the type of place where you wake up at 7 a.m. to go to like a business meeting, and the freaking elevator doors open and it smells like smoke. It's terrible.
But that's the difference. There's these premium casinos in Vegas, and then there are these other ancillary ones, and that's every other place there's casinos. They just feel like Excalibur is probably would be one of the top casinos in Council Bluffs or even in Atlantic City. Right. Like that's just how the other ones end up having that vibe.
It's because of the turnover. I think it's because of the money and therefore the turnover in Vegas. Like there's a new casino going up every 5 years, and like the new casino,
when people are coming in because
there's what there's.
I said, then there's people coming in.
Well, yeah,
the turnover of people too,
and so it's like the Aria is like this insane, just ridiculous situation with all this brand new stuff.
Yeah,
you don't get that anywhere else, really. You know,
even if you didn't gamble. Like, just the eating scene is a big deal there. Like, there are so many, like, Top Chef, like, nice restaurants in all of these different places. And that was, like, one of the great places to get, like, it was great if you go with a business because then you're expensing these things and taking out clients. And, like, you know, I've eaten some of the best meals of my life in Las Vegas when I worked for big companies. Maybe I'll go work for a big company again and go out to Vegas for some conferences.
Yeah.
And when this COVID thing goes.
Yeah. Only just sign up right before conference season if that's such a thing.
Yeah, conference season. I told you guys about like the Pizza Expo, the other conference that was happening.
No.
Nightclub Workers Conference.
The what?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we were in the Cosmopolitan and we were playing craps before we were about to go out with like some clients. It was like 10 guys from my company. And like we all look up and we're like, why did 100 hookers just walk in? And everyone seems fine with it. And it was like 100 girls, all with like literally Kelly Bundy. Picture Kelly Bundy miniskirts. And you're like, this is absurd. And like, oh, these are all nightclub hostesses here for the nightclub conference.
Wow, I need to get into the nightclub business, I think.
It was an interesting thing to observe all of the different meats of our cultural stew.
Well, that's been the joke around. So CES is probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest conferences in Las Vegas. And like it has historically been the same week as the porn convention. And so it was like in the early days, you know, CES now is like a whole big thing with all these, every tech company in the world is there. And it's probably more money than any other conference ever. But
definitely
in the early days, it was just a bunch of tech nerds. And then there's like a bunch of porn stars. And it's just this silly, you know, clashing of whatever cultures. But,
clashing of cultures, yes.
And, you know, embracing of cultures, I think, in a lot of ways, probably too. So
indeed,
we have MLB in praises of gambling. I don't know what that's about. Just they're okay with it.
I think it's interesting. The different leagues have taken it a little bit differently, and I noticed like football seems to be fully embracing it. Baseball, somewhat. The only reason I wanted to bring up baseball was because it seemed like they have like the most negative history with gambling, and it kind of talked about that where it went from. I don't know what to make of sports like I said, it used to be like this sacred thing. America or baseball seems to be America's favorite sport or national pastime or something like that. That it's the most classic, and it hasn't really changed that much over time. That it's like they try and do things to make it more interesting. I don't know if you guys ever watched. Was it Brockmire? Was it? No. It was on
familiar
IFC,
with Brockmire.
It's what's the guy? He's in The Simpsons. Does a lot of voices. I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, Lionel Hutz.
No.
Yeah,
he might do his voice.
I know who it is, but I can't think of his name.
But so the final season of that was like they're trying to save baseball and they're doing all these like TikTok-esque things to make it more interesting. But baseball just seemed like there's nothing. It's fun to go to a game. I loved it. We would go to the Giants games. I would get free tickets from work. It's a fun activity. If I paid attention to like one inning or half an inning of the game, that might be a novelty, but there's nothing exciting about it. But I do think like, or it's hard to get excited about it. But if you were actually betting or you're making all these little prop bets on things, like you pay attention to all the details in the game. There's plenty of things you could gamble on, but it seems like it's the kind of thing that they've opposed, but now everybody's
everybody's getting on it.
Everybody's getting on board. Yeah, I don't know what else
let's gamble.
Is left. Basketball, baseball, hockey. Does anybody gamble on hockey?
I'm sure that people do gamble on hockey. I can't imagine that you don't. Basketball, I used to gamble on college basketball.
College
quite
basketball. I mean, March Madness in Vegas has always been just like people will go there just because of that, right? Like,
one of the things that I regret from my pre-children days was I had some guys I used to play soccer with in Pittsburgh, and they would do a dude's trip to Vegas for March Madness every year. And they would leave, like, these guys, they had a system. And they would, this is like, the things were a little bit looser with the airlines back then, but you could take a plastic Ziploc bag as long as you were under, 3 ounces, and you could just fill them up with, airline bottles that you brought from home. And so they would just bring a thing of 10 airline bottles and just be drinking on the plane on the way out there, going at it, right? And then when they would get there, they would go the Thursday and Friday of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament is just games all day. It's the first round of games. It's just go, 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 right? And so these big places that have stadium seating, they would have these theaters, and you just sit down in the theater, and they have 7 games up that are all 40 feet wide, and they go and you get up and you just get beers all day long, and you're just watching 10 games at once, or however many games they play at once. I definitely wish I had gotten into that, but it's going to be hard for me to convince my wife that I should go on a 3-day bender to go watch basketball and gamble money that I don't make.
Well, no, but you will make money there. I think that's the argument. You'll make so much money there.
I will.
It'll be worth it. Yeah.
Do you want our kids to go to college or not? Yeah.
All right. Recommendations.
You got to get your kids to go to college in Vegas, UNLV.
Ooh, that's the
then
move.
You're just
that's the move.
I'm just scouting out schools.
Going to visit.
That's it. Yeah. Pretty confident I don't want my kid to go to UNLV. But any of the University of California system schools sounds great. Recommendations.
Mine. So speaking of sports,
Jeff, you changed yours.
I did change mine. I was just thinking of sports betting and this stupid guy, Dave Portnoy. I mentioned him. He's the president of Barstool Sports. He founded it. I didn't know who he was until recently, but he, I think, because of no sports, got bored and started trading stocks, and he just. His whole thing is just shtick and just talking shit. And so, he's part of this, stocks only go up. I'm just betting on this. The suits don't know what they're doing. They're not messing with me. He also does pizza reviews, which is kind of hilarious because he'll, everyone knows the rules, 1 bite, and then he always takes 5 bites. And so he's entertaining. He's on CNBC now. They're interviewing him on Fox Business News and CNBC as because he's moving. I'm not sure he's actually moving the market, but all these Robin Hood style kid traders are following him.
Follow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're into that.
When he's talking about beating these suits, is he is it a bit of a joke?
It's a joke. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
It's all of it's a joke, and that's the I think the problem is people somewhat believe him and think his stocks only go up. It's no, he's just talking shit because he's been right, and he's going to be very very wrong at some point, and he's going to probably just stop trading stocks and get back into sports gambling like he traditionally has. But anyway, he's somewhat entertaining on the internet.
The one I haven't really dipped into that particular salad yet, but the one thing that I did watch that he had some video, goes, hey, what is this thing that's up 8% that I own $400,000 of? It's oh, why do I own $400,000? Oh, I remember. I was on a Tinder date with some girl, and she's like, oh, I work for this company, so I bought $400,000 of their stock just to show her I have a big wiener.
Yeah, they had,
and then he goes, "That's how you trade. That's how you trade."
Exactly. I mean, he's a total jackass, but it is entertaining. So they also had this big controversy with one of their podcasts, the Call Her Daddy podcast, which is a Barstool Sports sponsored podcast. And there's some drama where one of the there's two girl hosts, and it was apparently very popular. One of the girls was dating some guy at HBO, and that guy convinced her to basically just break the contract. Like, they did shit that they just definitely shouldn't have done. They had like a 2-year contract. They were 1 year into it, and they were just like, no, we're breaking it. You need to like double everything because it's successful now. It's just not really how this whole thing works. And it was all this guy. So this guy was on there just talking shit about this Mr. Suit or whatever. He called him something like, the Suits at HBO. And just like talking like shit. Just like personal, I'm going to fuck this guy. Like, he has no idea what he's doing. It just like, it was the
Barstool Sports guy said that.
The Barstool Sports guy. Yeah, exactly. So he has like names written on bottles of champagne for his enemies. And he drinks them once he feels like he has conquered those people. He's got a whole thing. I'll tell you pretty funny.
If my wife didn't marry me and prevent me from going to hell, there's some things that I would emulate there.
So,
Sean, what's your recommendation?
So first, clarification or further information. Hank Azaria is who I was thinking.
Hank Azaria.
Yeah.
Yes.
Voice of Mo Sizlak, among other characters, I think.
Apu.
Yeah, Apu, which is a bit controversial.
It is.
Apu, yep. Yeah, so check that out. That's not my recommendation, though. Maybe it could be. But I've started watching Solar Opposites on Hulu. Pretty good, by the same creators as Rick and Morty. It's fairly similar, but a little bit different. But if you like Rick and Morty, I think you'd probably like this show, so check it out.
Nice. I will check that out.
My reco is High Score on Netflix. Have you guys watched any of that?
No.
I have not watched it. I saw the trailer.
Yeah, so I saw the trailer, and I was kind of interested in it, and, was doing some other things. Eventually, tried it out, and still only in the first episode, but some really interesting kind of just very basic business strategy stuff that's coming up in the first episode that I thought was really interesting. One of the vignettes that was these guys from MIT, like it's basically talks about the origin of video games, the video gaming industry. And so these guys from MIT, this one nerd bought a pinball machine and put it in his dorm room. And so just to see how much money he could make off of it, because, guys, MIT, computer programming, nerdy guys. He's like, I started making a lot of money off it. So I bought another one and got some partners, and we built a few. And like by the time we were seniors, we had 20 of these things, and it was paying for our tuition. And so they bought this game, Missile Defense, and they bought 3 of them because they had multiple locations on campus for these video games. And they found the first week, it's like this thing was like a smash hit. Like it was right up the alley of our MIT nerd colleagues, right? It was like basically the game was Russians are shooting missiles at us. We have to blow them out of the air. And so we saw the first week, each game made like $600 in the first week. And the second week it made $400. And the third week it made $200. And like you can picture the economics of an arcade game. It's like you stick a quarter in it, and it's like, well, how much money can this thing make? It's the amount of quarters that you can get in during a time, certain time period. So the better somebody gets at the game, the longer an individual gameplay is, the less money this thing's going to make. And so that particular game, just how it was designed, was people got better at it, and they are getting 20-minute, 30-minute sessions, which is 25 cents per 30 minutes.
Right.
A $600 a week game does not make. So they said, all right, well, what we'll do is we'll take spring break off, and we'll see if we can modify it. And then, like, we could probably sell this thing because this thing's a pretty popular game, and there are other arcade owners, like real arcade owners that aren't on a college campus that own it. So they reprogrammed it. They built a mod that plugged into it that just, like, made the explosions when you blow up a missile smaller, so you only got 1 missile instead of 3, and some other mods, and they called it Super
like
Missile
people
Defense.
rigging slot machines.
Yeah, it's basically what they did. And then they sold it for $295. And they advertised it in some random like arcade operator like industry magazine. So they sold 1,000 of them in like 3 months. So $295,000. And they're like, well, I guess we do this now. I guess this is what our jobs are. And like they quit school with like a semester to go. And shockingly, they immediately got sued by Atari, who made the game. And it was like, and they sued, like there were 3 owners. They sued them each for $5 million each. And so this is like 81, something like that. And meanwhile, they hired another guy to like try and go after a bigger game, and they wanted to modify Pac-Man, which was the biggest game out there at the time, right? So they're getting sued by Atari. Atari settles because Atari doesn't want precedent set in case they lose that anyone can mod their game because that will cost them millions. So they settle and they say, guys, listen, like the settlement, we won't, no money, but you have to make games for us, one, and two, if you want to mod any of our games, you have to ask permission first. And so the only thing that was public was Atari dropped the suit. So they were working on Pac-Man, and they called up the Pac-Man manufacturers, like, hey, Atari just dropped the suit. We beat them in court. We'll probably beat you too. We're modding Pac-Man. We just want your permission. And that turned in. And so the guys, like, it was Midway was the one making that Pac-Man, and they're like, hey, man, anything that sells more of these games we don't really care about, like, we'll do an agreement with you and figure out what the revenue share is. And that's how Miss Pac-Man was invented.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I'll have to check that out. I didn't even heard of that one.
That's your favorite game too, Mike.
Miss Pac-Man is my favorite game. I didn't know you knew that.
Yeah, you would always play it at the old cinema and other places probably too. But
yeah, which cinema was that?
The old cinema on Route 10, maybe.
Suckasana?
Whatever that one was called.
Suckasana?
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I call it the old one because like the Hackettstown one by that Wegmans Weiss was a new one that we'd have to drive so far to the movies.
That's true.
Yeah. So high score on Netflix.
Nice.
That there was a How I Built This about. I think he worked. Maybe he worked for Atari, and then he worked for Chuck E. Cheese. This guy. It was a really interesting one too about video games. So
I'll have to check that out. I haven't listened to that podcast in a while.
Maybe not.
Shameless plugs.
A couple of years ago.
Shameless plugs. Mine is thebubbleboard.com. If you follow the stock market at all, it's an easy visual way to follow your stocks, visual watch lists, a little easier than a bunch of texts on the screen. Check it out. It's free, thebubbleboard.com.
TWPWK.com. It doesn't have any bubbles, but it'll help you from getting bored.
There you have it. And you can follow us at TWPWK on the tweeters. And we're also on the Books of Face if you're interested in that too. So you get some updates, some posts about the articles that we talk about. My shameless plug is dashy-dash.com. We are building something pretty cool. Get on the wait list if you want to hear more about it. Dashy-dash.com. Thank you guys once again for a wonderful week. I thought it was a great conversation.
I agree. Talk to y'all next week.
Fun times. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Worst People We Know was recorded, edited, and produced in the Golden State, with a little bit of help from the Sunshine State.
The Garden State instead of the Sunshine State, huh?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and find us on Twitter at TWPWK. Thanks.
Nice, guys.
Nice.
Yeah, this guy, Nolan Bushnell, co-founder of Atari and creator of Pong, and a creator and founder of Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh,
which I don't remember the story completely, but I feel like part of the reason they created Chuck E. Cheese was because they had all these arcade games, and they needed to.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
find a market for it.
But pizza and arcades, who doesn't like that?
Guys, what are we going to do for our 100th episode anniversary in 2 weeks?
Very good question.
Especially our 99 for the class of 99 throwback.
Oh, yeah. Save the best for last. Yeah. Let's clap, motherfuckers.
Let's clap.
But you just know.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, we were all over the place on that one.
We
It was
were.
good.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Again?
I think we'll be all right. I'm just happy to have my mic set up back. Podcasting with a boom arm is so much easier than podcasting not with a boom arm.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Boom, boom,
Boom,
boom.
boom.
Thanks for listening.